Alright, making some progress. Putting some extra shelving in over there, and the compressor is where it needs to be. And I'm just starting to hook up the electrical on it. So I've got a cable run coming down from the roof joists. Let's go over and take a closer look here. So the electrical box is, let's see, where are we? It's over on the side here. Let's see if we can get a look at that. It is in there. So we're going to come down from the ceiling and wire into the side of the compressor, and then it's going to run all the way along. And I can't get that from here. All the way along the roof. Wait, shit, there's rather a lot of stuff in the way of. But I've got to get it all the way to the far corner of the garage. All the way back there, which is where the electrical panel is, behind that. More junk. So that's what I'm working on now, is getting that compressor wired in. But at least it's sat where it needs to be. Okay, getting started on the electrical hookup of this compressor. First thing I wanted to say is I mentioned in a previous video that I had bought some 12 gauge, 12-2 wire for this. I actually swapped that out. Put that over that side. There you go. I went up to 10-2. Basically, for a 220 volt circuit, you should always be using at least 12 gauge. But 12 gauge is only good up to 20 amps. And checking the manual for my compressor, it'll draw up to a maximum of 23 amps, and it's sitting on a 40 amp breaker. So for 40 amp, really I should probably go up to 8 gauge, but I think that's overkill for this application. If I was drawing a steady 40 amps or close to it, I'd definitely go to 8 gauge, but 10 gauge should be just fine. And for me, I thought the 12 was probably a little bit under spec. Like I say, it's rated to 20 amps. 23 amps would have probably have been fine, but I'd rather not take any chances. So that's the first thing. So the 10 gauge is orange, where the 12 gauge was yellow. I guess that's standard here. And to hook this up to the compressor, a few tools. So the first thing I'm going to need is wire strippers, and then cutters to trim back the insulation and the outer insulation, and trim things to length. And of course we're going to need a screwdriver to clamp the wires down, and one thing I haven't brought over, which I'll go grab in a sec, is a wire clamp to make sure that the wires are in there safe and they're not going to chafe. So I'll go grab that and I'll be back and I'll show you that. Alright, so this thing here is the cable clamp. Now it's just going to go over the end of the wire here. Then that screws into the electrical box on the compressor, clamps down on the cable, and makes sure that the cable can't get pulled out. And that's, let me show you where that goes. So, camera over. Pointed at the right thing. Kind of hard to see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is the electrical box, the electrical hookup, the on-off switch. That has one screw there that comes out, and then the box just lifts off. And the electrical cable is going to come in through this hole in the bottom of the box and be hooked up in here. And if you just put the cable through the hole, because it's a metal edge, that could chafe, and if it gets tugged on it could pull free, that could obviously cause a short. So this cable clamp prevents that. It's going to go in there. This is a little tight. There we go. And this nut just screws back on to hold it in place. I can get it. Doesn't want to go on. There we go. Now, it's a little tight in here, but there's just about enough space for this. Now I can pull my cable up through the clamp, and it's actually going to tighten down with these two screws, and that'll hold the cable securely and safely. Because it's collared now, there's going to be no risk of shorting out. And the next thing I've got to figure out is how I'm going to actually route this cable, being as it's as heavy a gauge as I've chosen to use, and actually be able to get it to the terminals. So let me figure that out and I'll be back. Alright, so this might be a bit hard to see, but I got the clamp installed into the electrical box. I took the clamping plate off to give me a bit more clearance to get the wire through. Now we're going to be connecting the white and black wires into these two terminal posts, and then back here, which I don't know if you can see it on that angle or not, but back here on the back of the box is a grounding screw, so we're going to have to tie the ground to that. So to be able to make those connections and have enough play in the wires to actually get everything routed, I'm going to have to strip the insulation back a little bit further than what you see now, maybe about half as much again. That should give me enough to be able to get my connections made, and if I end up clamping on the wires past where I've stripped the outer insulation to, I'm not too concerned about that. That may not be code, but I think it'll be safe enough. So and I guess I might as well just leave the camera running, and I'll speed this up in the end. Right, one quick point here. This is a 220 volt circuit, so both the white and black leads are hot, which means it doesn't matter which way around they connect to here. White black or black white, no difference. So I'm definitely wishing I had stuck with the 12 gauge wire, because this 10 gauge is really heavy, and it's proven to be quite a pain to work with, but I think we're getting there. I just got to get the ground screw hooked up and then try and pull it back to where the electrical box is going to fit back on top. Alright, that is in there about as good as I'm going to get it, I think. That was not easy. Now, let's take off that excess length of ground wire here. And if it pops off the grounding screw while I do this, I will cry. Wow. Alright, I'm going to call that job done. Put the top back on it and then finish the rest of the run. So I've still got to get this clamping wire or wire clamp into position, and I've just made that really hard for myself because now that ground wire is strapped down pretty tight. I don't think I can get the clamp underneath it, so I'm going to work on that, and I think I'm going to turn the camera off and finish this up, and I'll bring you back when I get it done. Alright, that was a fight, but I finally managed to get that cable clamp where it needs to be. So now I've just got to tighten it down, put the cover back on the box, and this end of the hookup is done. Now, I didn't point out earlier, but obviously these wires aren't live while I'm doing this. In fact, the other end isn't connected to the circuit breaker yet. So this is the first part of this hookup. Once I've got this all squared away, I'm going to run my electrical cable down the side of the wall, hook it into the panel, put in the new breaker for the 220 volt circuit, and that'll be a separate video. That's not going to happen until probably tomorrow, maybe this evening, maybe later tonight after I get some food. But definitely not right now. Alright, that's good and tight. I'll come back with a pipe wrench and snap that down the rest of the way before I'm done. But that cable is securely clamped in there, so that is good. One other thing I wanted to point out while I was in here, I mentioned in a previous video that my main air filter regulator, and if I use it, the oiler, is rated for a maximum of 150 psi, and this tank from the factory goes up to 165 psi. So I did some research, and it turns out it's actually really easy to adjust the pressure switch. So you can see there's a screw right here. You probably can't see the markings around it, but that's the pressure adjustment. And if I turn that clockwise, that'll increase the maximum pressure. If I back that off, probably half a turn to a turn, hopefully that should bring me down to 150 tank pressure, at which point I can run my half-inch air filter. And in order to do that, I either have to just cap the tank so that I can fill it to full capacity and confirm on the tank pressure gauge here that it's no higher than 150, or I could use my other air filter that's rated up to 175, just run a step down hose to that. But now I think about it, yeah, I'll just cap the tank off, put a shut-off valve on there, and adjust it down to where the tank's at 150, at which point I can run whatever I want off of it with no issues. So I'm not actually going to put the electrical box cover back on right now because, yeah, well, I guess I am actually. It's going to have to come off again later, but for right now, can just sit on there. Now, oddly enough, you actually have to have this in the turned on position to be able to remove the box. You would think it would make more sense that you turn the switch off before you get in there, but on the other hand, I guess you should never be getting in there while it's hot, so it really doesn't make that much difference. Getting this line back up is always a little bit tricky. And what I'm noticing is that this might have bent down a little bit in the effort to get everything put together, because the box isn't quite lining up over it. Let's see if I can get this right on here. Well, that's obviously not how it needs to be. Had it on there a second ago. Is that it? No? Ah, there it is. Yeah, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but there's definitely quite a gap here. I don't recall it being like that before. So, let's see if we can do something about that, bend that back up a little bit. Probably doesn't really matter that much, but seems like it'd be a bit safer to have that gap closed, so if anything, that looks worse. That's odd. Alright, well, I can get it to where there isn't a gap there, and then I've got a gap on the top. So, some slight fitment issues going on there, but I don't know, I'll figure that out. Basically though, that is the electrical hookup done, and well, this end of the electrical hookup done, and the next step is going to be getting the breaker panel sorted out. So I'll come back for that with another video another day.